Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lilu Nishmas was Mordechai. Rabbi Isai, we're still in a very terrible tekufa, and therefore we're going to start out this year without emails, but with a parak of Tehillim. Yes, I've seen literally hundreds of emails come in, and people are concerned about my well-being. I appreciate it. I'm Baruch Hashem 100%. Beseder. Everybody in my family is 100% great. Everything's givaldik. Shir hamalois. Mimama kim krosicha adinoi. Adinoi shema b'koili. Tienos dach hashavos lekoi dachanunoi. Im avinois tishmor yo. Adinoi miyamoi. Kimcha aslicha leman tivorei. Kivisi adinoi kivso nafshi. V'ledvoroi yicholti. Nafshi ladinoi. משמרים לבויקה, שמרים לבויקה, יחי ישראל אל אדינוי, כי מאדינוי החסד והרבה ימוי פדוס, והוא יבדס ישראל מכל אבני ישראל, ואכן כל בית ישראל, הנצורים בצור ושביה, עומדים בין ביום ובין ביבש, עמוקים רחם עליהם, יציר מצור לבוכם, אפילו לא עירו משהו בגאולה, השתו, בגלו, ובזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. I do want to show you the very famous picture that's going around, and it's Negeh to our shir. The daf never stops. Even under the rest, you learn the daf. It brings menucha. Rabbi Isai, the Masechta is sponsored by Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because torah and achdus are the best segula. Parnas HaChodesh, the last day, Elan Chaim Golan, Lilu, nishmat, Batsheva, Chaya, Bat Miriam, the neshama should have an aliyah. Thank you for the sponsorship. Parnas HaChodesh, Lilu Nishmas, Zechrya b'Moshe. Parnas HaChodesh, Lilu Nishmas, Chaya bas Yosef. Parnas HaChodesh, Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer ben Rochel, and yidden worldwide. Tzilah, Raczkowski, Lilu Nishmas, Naftali ben Nachum Gershon HaKoyen on his 6th yard side. The neshama should have an aliyah. Parnas HaShavua, MDY headquarter, coffee corner and beverages. Lilu Nishmas, Tzipora Fego Basrib Tuvia, Zechroina L'Rocha, Basrib Tuvia, Zechroina L'Rocha. The neshama should have an aliyah. Yeshukayach. In the art of the month, Yosef and Chaya, sorry for all the chusim that come from supporting Limud torah. We're holding today's Daf Samach Gimel. We're holding all the way in the bottom Daf Samach Beis, Amud Beis. Omar Abaya. Reb Elazar ben Yaakov v'Rebbe v'Rebbe Mayer kulu sfir lehu adam amaken davar shloi b'loyla. We have 3 Tanoim that agree that a person could make a kinyan on something that doesn't exist yet. Makne davar shloi b'loyla. Reb Elazar ben Yaakov hadam mar. We just had the sugi yesterday. Reb Elazar ben Yaakov who holds that if you have truma from something that's attached, and you want to make it truma on something that's detached, it works because it's davar shloi b'loylam, and it works. Rebbe the Sanya. Who's Rebbe? Rebbe, the author of the Mishnah, otherwise known as Reb Yehuda Nasi. I'm just prefacing it because the Gemara later on talks about it for a moment. Rebbe says, "Lisasgir eved el adoinav." The pasuk says you should not give back a slave to his master. Seemingly, we would understand that after you release him, he's already released, you shouldn't give him back to his master. Rebbe says, no, that can't be the meaning, because then the Torah wouldn't call him an Eved. What does it mean he's a slave? He's not a slave. He's already released. What's going on is that he says, when I will purchase you in the future, davar shloi b'loylam, then you are released from now. And the Torah tells us, Bezin is not allowed to let him use him as a slave. But it's davar shloi b'loylam. So you see this idea of Rebbe Yehuda Nasi says davar shloi b'loylam works. Very familiar with this. We had it yesterday a number of times in the Mishnah, and the Gemara brought it. You are mekudesh to me. After I become a ger, lachash, this guy, after you become a gioris, lachash is shtachri. Lachash is shtachri after I am freed as a slave, after you become free as a slave, lachash yomas bailach. After your husband dies, lachash thomas achoisach. After your sister you, sister one, I'm married to you. After you die, I'm going to marry your sister. That's what he tells the sister that he's not married to, because he's not allowed to marry two sisters at once. There's a shemeres yavam, that's a woman whose husband died without children, and now she's waiting to either do chalitza to her brother-in-law or to be misyabim to him. And a person comes along and says, after you finish the whole procedure, I want to get married to you. Eino mikudeshes. Why? It's davar shaloi b'laylam, all these things. Reb Meir argues, and he says, you could get engaged to a woman who's a slave now. You could get engaged to a woman who is a goya and she's in the process of a gerus. Why? Because he holds Adam makna davar shloi b'laylam. Reb Elchanan Pressman eino mikudeshes. Reb Yehuda Hanasi Omer, excuse me, Reb Yehuda Hanasi, which is Rebbe Mikudeshes. Umatam Omer Ein Mikudeshes. Reb Yehuda says, Reb Yehuda Hanasi says, Mikudeshes Adam Makne Davar Shalei B'Laylam. So then why do we say Ein Mikudeshes? Mishum Eva. Imagine telling your wife, by the way, I got engaged to your sister, just waiting for you to drop dead. That's not a great recipe for Shalom Bayis. So because of that, we say that it doesn't work. We don't want fighting. Or a woman tells her husband, by the way, you're not treating me so nicely. So I went and I got engaged to another man. He's just waiting for you to die. Again, recipe for disaster, Mishumeva. Says Gemara, if so, Reb Yehuda Hanasi just said, just because of a fight, we don't. Says Gemara, Hainu Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi. Yes, we already enlisted Rebbe. That was the first one about an Eved that we said that a person could say, when I buy you, then I'm going to release you. So that's Davar Shaloi B'Laylam. So we already mentioned Rebbe, which happens to be the same person as Reb Yehuda Hanasi. Says Gemara, Rebbe Kiva. What about Rebbe Kiva? If a woman says, I make a neder, that everything that I earn ain't you can't use ein tzarich lahaver, because Chachamim were misakin that ma'aseh yadayim, all of the woman's earnings go to the husband. That was a takana, because if she becomes captured, he has to redeem her. So there's a give and take. The husband is entitled to what she normally makes. Rebbe Kiva Omer Yofer. So therefore, if a woman says you're not entitled to it, I made a neder against it, we don't care about it. It's against what Chacham said. It goes straight to the husband. He doesn't even have to be made for. A husband has the ability to annul any neder that his wife makes. In this case, he doesn't even have to do it. Why? Because it's not hers to make it usher on him. Rebbe Kiva Omer Yofer. Rebbe Kiva says he should annul it. Why? Shematadif Allah v'yosem and aroylai. So there's a certain amount that we learned in the Darim that a woman makes, and that's what the husband is entitled to. What if she makes above and beyond? What if she's a lawyer? Just that extra $100,000 I make a year, then I'm making a neder against you. You can't have anything to do with it. So for that, he should make a faras and darim. He should be made for his wife's neder. Says Gemara, Itmar Allah. Omar Avuna Bereder Rav Yeshua. Bo imer zikdishu yodai lo yisayim v'yiu v'yodayim isnu ba'ilam. So Rav Huna says what's going on is that she said, so first of all, Rebbe Kiva says that we're concerned about something that didn't happen in the world yet. Davar shaloi b'laylam. Earnings that she didn't even earn yet, and she's mother her husband, and he has no right to use those earnings, but it didn't happen yet. It's Davar shaloi b'laylam. So you see, Rebbe Kiva says, I'm concerned about something that didn't happen in the world. So he should be in the list of Tanoim who hold Adam Makne Davar shaloi b'laylam. The answer is because she was makna something today that exists. She was makna her hands. She said, my hands are kaddish to Shemayim. In other words, whatever I earn with these hands, the husband shouldn't have anything to do with. But it's something that exists right now and today. Says the Eligim Mishnah. I have pull in the government. I will talk for you. I'll do protexia for you. I will get something done for you. I know you want to build a certain house. You want to add another floor to your house, whatever it is. I'm going to speak to the government for you. Or he tells her, I will work for you as a daily laborer one day. If he did what he said he's going to do, she becomes Mekudeshes. Now the question is, how exactly does she become Mekudeshes? Is it with the earnings, the hana that he did in the future? In other words, he actually worked, so with that work, she became Mekudeshes. Or he gave her a pruta right now, and the fact that he has to work or talk to the government, that's a t'nai. So now we're going to see in the Gemara. Vimlav, and if he doesn't fulfill his condition, Einam Kudeshes. Omar Rish Lakish explains. V'hu shenasan lo shava pruta. He had to give her one pruta. Why? Says you see the chart here, chart number 1. We had this machlokes before. If yeshna l'schirus mitchila v'atzoif, or ein l'schirus ela lebasoif. In other words, when a person works, when a person does something for someone, is the person earning his pruta as he goes along? So let's say he says, I am going to work for you for a day. So as he works, every 5 minutes, he gains a pruta, and now she owes him that pruta. If that's the case, then he never gave her anything for Kiddushin, because by the time he was doing the Kiddushin at the end of the day, she already owed him all this money throughout the day. And you cannot get married with a loan. But if you hold, excuse me, so at the end, when he gives her the Kiddushin, he gives it to her all together. There's no loan. So Rish Lakish is going to prove that we have to hold that as you go along, he owes her a pruta. And therefore, we must say that he gave her one pruta all the way in the beginning, and he gave it to her. And he said, with this pruta, I'm doing Kiddushin. The rest, talking to the government, working for you for a day, that's just a condition. I'm not being mekadesh with that. As the Gemara, if I do something for a woman, I can't use that for Kiddushin. Vatanya. With the value that I gave you a ride on a donkey, I gave you a Uber ride, a taxi ride. I let you ride in the wagon or on a ship. Masei over here. The famous Maisa. There was a guy that just got married, and he took his wife on his wagon, and suddenly the horse stopped. So he whacked the horse. He said, go. Nothing. Whacked the horse again. Nothing. Third time he whacks the horse doesn't go. So he jumps out of his wagon with a gun and kills the horse. The wife, the newly married wife, was mortified. She starts screaming, what are you doing? What are you doing? He looks at her and he says, that's number 1. Strike 1. The schar that I already gave you a ride on the wagon or on the boat, that's already a loan, and you cannot be mekaz with a loan. The schar that I will give you a ride on a donkey, and that I'll give you a ride in the wagon, excuse me, mikudeshes. So you see that schar in the future works. I'll work for you one day, mikudeshes. I'll give you a ride in a wagon, mikudeshes. Maybe you'll say these cases talking about that initially he gave her a pruta, and then he said, I'll give you a ride. He said, no, the wording is, with the value of the ride. It's not with the value of the pruta. Void, and another raya, Tanya, Shevi mi b'tzafta, a woman tells a man, I'm scared of the dark. Sit here with me, keep me company, and with that, schar v'kadesh locha, and I'll become a kodesh to you. Schok lefanai, I heard you're a good comedian. Give me a few jokes, and with that, I'll become a kodesh to you. Rekoy lefanai, By the chasana, you do all these somersaults. Dance in front of me. I say kidimus hazeh, or create this kind of thing for me. Shaman, we evaluate it, and that's a key word here, shaman. If everything he did, if, typically speaking, for a comedian, for a batchen, you charge $1,000 a night, and he gave you 25 minutes, if that is a shavar pruta, mukudeshes. So you'll say, oh, over here you see, I'm being mekadesh you in the future with something that we discussed with comedy, batchonos, it works in the future. So you say, maybe no, maybe he gave her pruta plus comedy. So why do you have to evaluate the comedy? From the fact that you're evaluating, you see that you make kaddish with the comedy, not with the pruta. Isn't this a bam kash or Rish Lakish? Amalcha Rish Lakish, Haitana Bara, this Tana of the Braisa, Savar Enel Eschirus Ela Lebasoif. So the Tana of the Braisa holds that all the money of the comedy happens all the way at the end. Basoif, not like we thought, Yeshnel Eschirus Mitchila Vatsoif, that it works as the comedy goes on. Every minute into the comedy, there's another pruta, another pruta, another pruta, and by the time it gets to the end, there's nothing for him to be mekadesh. Over here, he holds in the Bryce, the reason why she's mekudeshes is because this Tana actually holds he gets nothing throughout the whole comedy show. All the way at the end, when he wants to be mekadesh, boom, that's when he gets all the money. The Tana Didan and the Tana of our Mishnah, Savar Yeshnel Eschirus Mitchila Vatsoif. And our Tana is forced. I'm forced to say in our Tana in the Mishnah that he gave a pruta in the beginning because there's no pruta at the end. Everything is alone. As the Gemara, what forced, and it's a tchak, to say such a pshat. Why? Because to say that it doesn't even say in the Mishnah that he gave her a pruta, and he also said, I'm going to give you something else. That's a tchak. And he gave her a pruta. Why would the Rish Lakish be doichak like that? He was forced. He had a problem with the Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah use the lashon of on condition nisni b'schar? Just say a straight out case where a person says the value of what I'm going to do. With the money, with the value that I'm going to speak to the government for you. Why does it have to say al minas? It's mashma says Rish Lakish. He gave her a pruta plus he made a condition. He gave her something. He gave her a pruta plus he made a condition. Says the Elegant Mishnah. Almanas shir tza'abo. Let's get engaged on condition that the father agrees to this Kiddushin. Talking about adults here. You don't need perhaps you don't need their ratzon at all. You don't need their they don't have to agree to the shidduch. Now it happens to be just the Gdolim Paskin, and this is going to get to us in our days. If a bacher, let's say, thinks to himself that it's unhealthy for him to be unmarried, his father wants him to wait another 2 years to go to college, to finish yeshiva, whatever the thing is. But he himself feels that ruchnius-wise is not good for him. It's really not good for him not to be married. So the Poskim said that over here you don't need the father's consent. You just get married. Why? Because if a father says, Bimachal Shabbos, you don't have to listen to the father. So here, the father is basically saying you should be over Yisurim, you shouldn't, and for your Gdusha, it's not a good thing not to be married, so you don't have to listen to your father. But we're talking about just a typical tonight. Let's get engaged on condition that our parents agree to this. They're happy with this. If the father is happy with it, it's a good Kiddushin. If not, not. What if he didn't have a chance to meet the Chassan? It's a good Kiddushin because the father didn't disagree. We're going to see in the Gemara. Meisa ben, interesting lashon. Meisa ben means if the Chassan himself died, now we have to be concerned. He died without children. There's a chi of yibum even by erusin, even just by engagement of the time of the Gemara, just giving a ring. So are they engaged or not engaged? Is she a yavama or not a yavama? So we have to teach the father to say, I don't agree with the shidduch, even though the chassan is dead, because when he found out from it, he found out about it. On the spot, he says, I don't agree with it. And memela, the erusin never happened, they were never engaged, and therefore she's not a Yavama, she doesn't even need Chalitza. Ask the Gemara, Maya Manash Yirtzar Abba. What does it mean? Ilema Ado Omar Abba in, if it means that he literally said yes. Oh, so let me just show you this chart over here, chart number 2, which has to go like literally 5 minutes earlier. We were talking about the sugya of Rish Lakish, Amanasha Adaber like L'Shiltoin, you have a Pruto Nabukudeshes, the difference between the Bryce and the Mishnah. Okay. And here's the idea of Yeshna L'Schirus and Tzilah Atzoif. Okay. So, Reb Yoshi did a picture here, chart 4, depicting a chassan. I'll just call this chassan Shlemiel. Look at his shoelaces. Look at his. I guess that's what it was. Amanashi Yitzab. Does father agree to this shidduch? So the Gemara says, "My Amanashi Yitzab." What exactly is the case? So we have basically 4 cases in the Mishnah. You see the chart number 5. Amanashi Yirtza. So there's 2 parts of Amanashi Yirtza. The father agreed, then there's Kiddushin. The father didn't agree, there's no Kiddushin. There's also another case, that the father died. And if the father dies, Mukudeshes. Then there's a case where the chassan himself dies. So then you have to teach the father to say, I don't want. So what does it mean, Almanas? Ilema Ad Omar Abin. If the green case, all the way in the beginning, Shiyirtza means that he has to say yes. How does it fit into the next case? If the father dies, there's Kiddushin. If the father has to physically say the word yes, so in the case, the blue case, the center case, where the father dies, he didn't say yes. So we can't say that it's talking about a case where the father has to say yes, because when he dies, he doesn't say yes. Elo, Amud Beis. So we must say that the first case, Almanash Yirtza, means he's quiet. He doesn't oppose to it. Ema Seifa. Then let's go all the way to the last case, the purple case. In a case where the son dies, in other words, the chassan dies, we teach the father to say that he never agreed to this shidduch, and therefore his daughter won't be eligible for yibum. As Gemara might. Why? If we're talking about a case where all the father has to do is be quiet, what good is it when we teach the father to say something? It was already too late. He was quiet when he heard about it. So now the Gemara says like this. We got to change things up a little bit. The first cases of the Mishnah are talking about when the father was quiet. First case of the Mishnah, quiet. Second case of the Mishnah, when it says the father died and the chassan died, we're talking about that he said on condition that the father doesn't oppose. Reisha asked the Gemara, how's that possible? You're telling me 2 different cases without even explaining, without even going into detail. You're telling me the first case is the Mishnah, the green, talking about the father has to be quiet. The second case is the father shouldn't oppose. That's very different. Reisha b'chataima mitz Yosef v'seif b'chataima. You're going according to one man the Omar, but you're explaining it differently. Now, what we could have done is, we could have explained that the first case is Amanash Yirtzah. He was quiet when he heard about it. And the Seifa, he never made a machal la'ilam. He never opposed to it forever. We could do that. But it's 2 different man da'amrim. According to the man da'amar, one man da'amar, he was quiet when he heard about it. According to another man da'amar, he never made a machal forever. But that's 2 different man da'amar. We prefer to say it's going according to one man da'amar and 2 different cases. Yeah, okay, it's better. We see from here it's better to say the Mishnah is talking about 2 different cases, even though it doesn't say it. And say the whole Mishnah goes according to one Tana. So this is a yisoid in all of Shas. It's better to say that a Mishnah goes according to one Shita, two very different cases, rather than saying that it's two different Manda Amrim, but will make the case the same. No, we could say it's one Manda Amar, one case. What do you mean by this? They say that on condition that the father agrees to this. This could fit into all the cases. What it means is, as long as the father doesn't oppose for 30 days. So, going from the beginning to end, we just stick in, he has up until 30 days. And if that's the case, that case fits in beautifully in all four cases. Let's say, he didn't oppose within 30 days, boom, it's Kiddushin. He opposed within 30 days, it's not. Meisa'av, if he died within 30 days, Mukudeshes. If the chassan dies, we'd have to teach the father to oppose. Says the Mishnah. Oh, we just turned to the Samach Gimel Amud Beis. For all those in need of a Refuah Shlema, I believe this is the last day for the turning of Daf, if I'm not mistaken. And by innovations, in honor of my uncle Reb Elchanan Pressman, and as a schus for a year filled with mazel, bracha, hatzlocha, and parnasa b'revach for all of the MDY family. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah. Father's amnesia reminds me of the old Maisa. There's an 85-year-old man who was found on the street sitting on a bench crying. That's what's the matter? Why are you crying? He says, I found the best shidduch of my life. I just got married last night to a 30-year-old woman, such a balas midah, such a special woman. No, so it's amazing. You're 85 years old. You have a 30-year-old. What's the problem? So yeah, but I can't remember where I live. You have a father who is so excited. He made a shidduch for his daughter. Finally, with the whole shidduch crisis, he makes a shidduch for his daughter. And he says, I don't know who the chassan is. Stam reminds me of a Maisa. A person went into the Sfas Emes, and he says, my son wants to get engaged to this girl from this town. What do you think? So Sfas Emes looks at him and he says, oh, it's a shidduch min hashamayim, you should definitely get engaged. When he left, the Hasidim said, Rebbe, we never heard you use this language. It's a shidduch min hashamayim. What does that mean? So he said, I'll tell you. Just yesterday, a man came in here, a different person comes in here, and he says, I want a shidduch for my daughter. The problem is everybody in my city hates me, besides one person. So I said, don't worry about it. Today, when the father of the chassan came in here, and he told me about the shidduch to this exact girl, and I asked him, did you look into the girl? He said, yeah, I asked one person, one friend in the city, and he said unbelievable things. I realized if he got that one person that likes him, obviously it's a shidduch min hashamayim. Says the Mishnah, Kidashti is biti, v'enu yidei lemi kidashtiyo, bo'echad v'amar ani kidashtiyo. Some guy comes around and says, oh, I'm the chassan. You forgot I'm the chassan. Nema. Now, you see, there's a svara. What if the father recognizes he doesn't remember who, but he knows this guy is way too tall compared to the chassan. I remember the chassan was like this, he's like that. I mean, he's risking it here. That's why he's believed. If two people come and they both say, we are the ones, shneim noisem get. They both should give a get. But if they want, echad noisem get, v'echad kaines, one gives a get, and one gets married to her. Omer Rav, neman liten get, ve'neman lichnois. Rav says, what we allow here, Kidash is biti. If the guy comes along and he says, it's me, we believe him only that he has to divorce her, but not to marry her. Never didn't get why a person doesn't sin and he has nothing to gain. Over here, when he says, I have to divorce, I'm the chassan, but I'll divorce her, so he gains zero from it. Why would he do that? But maybe he has a Yitzhahara, he can't marry her, maybe he's a bad guy. The father will remember if this is the chassan, and from the fact that he's not moicha, obviously he's the guy. So you can marry her. Ravasi agrees. Ravasi says, when he says, I became engaged, and I don't remember, she says, I became engaged, and I don't remember to who. So in that case, we don't trust her because maybe she wants to marry this guy. He's a great guy, and she's lying. It says in the Mishnah, not like that. It says one is believed to give a get and one is believed to marry her. How come over there in this case she's not believed? No, it's very different. When two people come along, so one gives a get and one could marry her because each one, the guy that is allowed to marry her says, wait a minute, what if the father recognizes the second guy? The father recognizes the second guy, I'll be in big trouble, I'll look like a fool. So when there's two people, we're not choishish. Person says, so we want to bring a right to Ravasi. I engaged my daughter and I don't remember too. I'm the one. He's believed even to marry her. And if somebody got married and somebody else came, and he says, wait a minute, you're married to her, I'm the one, I'm the chassan, we don't trust him. But when a woman herself says, I'm the one that got engaged and I don't remember, this is Ravasi's halacha, that a woman is not believed because she might like him and she might be over and aver with him, and therefore she's not believed. Says the Gemara, when a father says, I engaged my daughter off, I was ma'aris her to somebody, I was makabel Kiddushin from somebody, and then based on that testimony, can we kill a second person? Somebody came and had a relationship with his daughter. She's already engaged. Anybody has relations is chayiv misa. But based on what? On the eidechad, on the father who says, I accepted Kiddushin for her. Rav Omar ein soiklim, Rav Asi Omar soiklim, machloikis. Rav says yes, you could, based on the father's testimony, do skila, and Rav Asi says yes, and Rav says no. Rav Omar ein soiklim kol kemin rachmon alav yisura. We only believe the father for yisurim l'ktolei hemne. We don't trust him to kill people. Here it says in the pasuk, this is chart 6. He has the right to say, I gave my daughter to somebody, but that's only for Yisurim, not to kill people based on that. Says the Gemara, not true. Ravasi says we trust the father for everything, even for capital punishment. Says Ravasi, but I agree that when it's the girl herself who says, I accepted Kiddushin, we don't kill based on that. This happens to be probably my father's favorite catchphrase. When I was a kid, he used to use it all the time. It's Miraf Sinigra. Miraf Sinigra. To me, it meant it doesn't make any sense. Miraf Sinigra, the literal translation is, it breaks roofs. And that's what it means over here also. It doesn't make any sense. You would think, Ravasi, on himself, Ravasi says, I agree that when the girl herself says, I became engaged, you don't kill. But when the father says, my daughter's engaged, you do kill. It's Miraf Sinigra. Ravasi said, you would say that it's Miraf Sinigra. It doesn't make sense. That what? When it's so weak, when a father testifies, I accepted Kiddushin, but I forgot to who. Somebody comes along and says, it's me. We trust that guy. In other words, the father's testimony is on the weak, very weak, and nevertheless, you kill capital punishment based on the father's testimony. So the father's testimony is weak. Somebody, when he says, I don't know who my daughter got engaged to, anybody could come along and say, it's me, hi, and we trust them. With that weakness, we still kill somebody. When a woman is becheskas mekudeshes, we say she is engaged. When she says, I am engaged to somebody, we believe her. So somebody else comes along and says, "Hey, I'm the guy, ain't koines. He can't get married." And it did cycle. So when her testimony is much stronger than the father's, certainly we should believe her and we should kill based on her testimony. So it says Rav Asi, that's not a good kasha. It's not true. A father has much more nemanos than a girl. We don't even trust her at all. It's not true. We trust him and we don't trust her. Therefore, it makes more sense. Since we trust him, there's only misa based on his testimony, no misa on her testimony. No, I shouldn't say there's no misa on her testimony. We trust the father more than we trust her, and therefore there's misa on his testimony. Both cases, whether the father testifies, my daughter got engaged with me, I accept the Kiddushin, or whether she does, there's no skila. If a father testifies that his son is 9 years old and his daughter is 3 years old, because a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old are roy lebia, and therefore you be chayiv misa based on their age. So the Mishnah says, we trust the father only that the person would have to bring a carbon, but not for any einish. And we prove Rav Chizda. By the way, in Yemen, there's a minhag over there not to count years. So people don't really know how old they are. Sometimes a kid could be bar mitzvah when he's 10 years old. I bumped into Timari. I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 50, but it's possible that I'm 60 and maybe even 70. In other words, they don't count b'chlal. So here you need the testimony of the father. No, he's 30. She's 3. This daughter is 12 years old. He's neman for Yisurim only, not for Roinchim. Nedarim, Charamim, Hegdeshos. If the kid is makdish something, Lerech, and here you see, check out chart 7. What age group is this person? Is the person 20 years old? You have to give 20 selah. If the father says no, he's a 6-year-old, so you have to give 20 selah. If he's less than 5 years old, then less, then you only give 5 selah. Again, so Erechin is a person says, Erekoy alai, that person's value on me, I'm going to give the base of This depends how old he is. We trust the father, how old the kid is. But not for punishments. And you see exactly what Rav Chizda said, that we trust the father for Einchim, but not for Yisurim and not for Einchim. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.